All right, we're back. And it is MAPD714 in the fall 2017 semester. We're continuing our lesson 6 with part 2, talking about using tab bars and pickers. That's what it's just a user interface thing, and also connecting them to logic. Some of our logic didn't quite work exactly as expected with our date. I tried to put in this time zone, which allows me to change. Even I can even print the time zone when I want to. That's no problem. It should be EDT, which is Eastern Daylight Time. But on our simulator, when I run this thing, like we saw, it actually runs 4 hours faster, which is GMT, right? GMT. Because GMT time is 5 hours. We're actually -5. But because of our daylight savings time, we're still in daylight savings time. We're -4. So it's showing our current time is 8:49, but it's showing like 12:49 the next day, right? And that's why it's doing that, because of our difference in time. Okay, so we'll figure that out. Let's go back to this. So we have what we were working with was our main storyboard. Here's our main storyboard. And we did this one kind of, and I want to move to the next one, which is single. So this is like the date. Now this is a real picker, and this picker is going to need both a delegate and a data source. Okay, that's what this one requires. Okay, so similar to what we did last time, I'm going to pull up the assistant editor. I'm going to get rid of this one, right? And I'm going to just zoom over here a little bit so I can see more of this and less of this. And we're looking at the wrong one because suddenly our controls are looking at the wrong editor, because it's in manual, and I want to make it automatic to make it like the right one. There we go. Okay, so single component picker view controller. This needs to change up here, and we're going to add something different. If you actually look at the PowerPoint that I've been working with, I go to the next one here. Take a look at this weird stuff over here. Right, this is what I got to type in. So what do you think this is? Well, it's a UI picker view delegate and UI picker view data source, right? Now, remember, for people who know object-oriented programming, that most languages cannot inherit from more than one class. So what is this? Yes, we can. We can do a time. We can do a countdown timer and stuff too, but that's not what we're doing right now. Okay. Well, I'll come back to that. We'll talk about the fix. But let's talk about this for a second. So UI picker view delegate, right, and a UI picker view data source. What are those things? Huh? No. Can't be multiple inheritance. Doesn't exist, right? In other languages, these are called interfaces, but in Swift, they're called protocols. All right, so whenever we hear protocols, the name protocol in Swift, I want you to think in your mind interface. An interface is another way of creating a structure for a class so that they adhere to a certain pattern, right? In this particular case, we're using two interfaces, a UI picker view delegate interface and a UI picker view data source. Okay, and it gives us access to different methods. That's what it does. So they're kind of like interfaces. So if I add that into my class, so on the end, if I say UI, and if you notice picker view delegate, UI picker view delegate, and then UI picker view data source, picker, if I can type view data source, right? I'm basically casting my class as not just a UI view controller, but also I'm inheriting from those two protocols. Now it says type single component view controller does not conform. If I click fix, it adds in my stubs. That's what it does. I'm going to go to manual again. This is not showing up over here. So if I go back to my assistant editor is automatic. I love when it does this stuff. Let's just bring that back for a second and go back to main storyboard. And I'm going to bring back that assistant editor, and instead of manual, it's going to be automatic. And notice what it did was it added in a couple of additional methods, but it added them in funny above my view did load. I don't like that, so I'm going to take those out for now. I'm going to put them down here. So what is this stuff that it added in? Well, this, first of all, let me get rid of the code parts where it says code. A protocol, what it does is it forces me to return something, right? Or to actually have two methods. Here, the return type is integer for both. So I'm just going to return something. I'm going to return to 0. So I'm going to say return 0 just to satisfy my both protocols. Okay. How about return? If I type return, that'd be good. All right, so that just satisfies the requirement. So what this does, it adds two more components. Okay, so now that we've done this part, we're back to this, and we've got to specify that we have two more events. There's two more events. And I'm just going to get rid of the assistant editor for a second. So I'm going to kind of X out of it. And I'm going to bring back up this thing. And notice that on the right, it's showing us that the actual option itself, it presents two segues, right? One of them is, here's the relationship between my view controller, right? And if I click in here onto this thing itself, onto the actual control, notice I have a couple of additional outlets. Take a look, guys, because you're going to miss this. One of them is data source, and the other one is delegate. Now, what I got to do is I want to inside this. I'm finding this by clicking on my picker control, okay? And notice that I have a couple of additional things here. I want to drag the data source and the delegate to my controller. Now, the only way I could do that is if I made my controller adhere to the protocols of data source and delegate, which I already did. Okay, so I'm going to drag and drop this all the way to my view controller, creates a link, and same thing for my delegate. If I don't do this, I'm not going to get any input from my picker control. Remember, I need both the delegate, which is kind of like an event handler, and an anonymous event handler, and the data source, which gives me data from my control. Let's go back and review again, just one more time. So how did I get that? Well, I had to add these two protocols, the delegate and the data source protocols. Once I added them and my single component picker view controller complied with the two protocols, right? Because I added these additional methods down here, functions, right? Then I was able to drag and drop those two events. Okay, so I need these two. We're going to fix these in a second. But these two methods are required to adhere to these two protocols up here. And what did it add? Number of components. How many do I have? Right? Well, I only have one, right now. And my picker view, number of rows in my component. Number of rows. So I can have more than one row in my component. We're going to fix these in a second. Let's go back to this. So that's the first thing we did. We just changed it so we have so it meets our protocol requirements, right? And it shows you what to do by dragging and dropping. We also need other things. We need the single picker, right? Outlet, and we need the button again, which we haven't done yet. So I'm going to drag and drop this one here. Control drag to in front of my view did load, right? I'll call this the single picker, right? And then on the bottom, below view did load, I'm going to drag and drop the button, or control drag to the button, and we'll call this on button pressed. It's got to be an action, not an outlet of type UI button, which creates that stub where I'm going to put my code. Okay. So delegates and data sources are somewhat confusing to people who've never done them before. They're looking at them going, I still don't get it. Why do I need a delegate? Why do I need a data source? Because a delegate, think about it as I need some way of handling the data. So I'm getting data, and when I get the data from my I got to get it from somewhere, right? And you might think, some people think a data source should actually be a model, right? Because we're using model view controller pattern, but actually it's more logic than anything else. It's connecting to our data. Okay, so that's this part. Let's continue. So we talked about this, making our delegate and data source the same thing. We create an ARM button pressed event, and now we're going to create this first part, which is we've got our UI picker view, right? And we want to create our data source. This is our data source right here. So they're just using an array. This is how you do an array in Swift, right? So up at the top, again, under our picker view, we're going to create a private, right? We'll just call this the character name, just like it says here, just to take care of it. Character names is equal to an array. And actually, this looks very similar to JavaScript to me, right? And then we can say, you know, Han Solo, right? Luke Skywalker. And of course, Leia Organa, right? One of our 3 favorite heroes. You can put other ones in there too, like Chewbacca, C-3PO, C-3PO. I'm gonna get in trouble from all my friends. 3PO, sure, we'll make it 3PO. 3PO. Lando Calrissian, I believe it is. Bunch of names. Yay, that's our data source, character names. Remember, because we can specify this array, and we're going to use this array as our data source because my class is a data source, right? Once I specify that it is adherent to the protocol UI picker view data source, I can use this class as the data source itself. But we, in other future lessons, we'll use a different data source altogether. Okay, this is kind of cool. Let's go to the next one. So that's the first part. The second part is an on button pressed event, where we let our row be a single picker dot selected row, and we're going to talk about what that is. So let's do that. So a couple of things that are going to happen inside of my button pressed. So we're defining a row, which is the single picker, right? Single picker dot selected row. What is this? And it says the row number, which is in component 0. Okay, we'll kind of talk about this. So we don't need this one. Okay, but if we follow what it says in the book, all we need is to put in component 0. What does component mean? Well, the great thing is that you can have more than one of these, right? I can have component 0 and component 1. Component 0 is like another picker. We're going to see that in the next example. But remember, we talked about the difference between Swift 3 and Swift 4 and Swift, right? Did I miss something? Single picker selected row in components. Single picker dot selected row. What was that? Selected row. I'll be okay. That's what I was checking. In component. There we go. Selected row. All right, so that's the first one. So that's the row that was selected. So that row is a reference to the row that I've selected inside of my picker view. So I have a bunch of data, and I'm selecting one of the names. And that row is the reference to it, right? In this initial component. Next, I want to have selected equals to, I'm going to make a reference or lookup. I'm looking up my, I'm using my array, right? Character names, and I'm using row as the index, whatever the row is. So let selected equals to the character names array and character names array. And the row is the index. So selected, if I can type, there we go. So this holds the row, the name from this list of what I've selected. Next, the title, you selected. Okay. But the title equals to you selected, and then backslash selected. So this will keep track of what we selected somewhere. Next, we're making another alert and an action, just like we did last time, right? So actually, you probably copy paste, but let's just do this again. Oops, that was good. Let alert be equal to a UI alert controller, right? And I want to choose this one again, where I want to put some of these things on different rows, just like I did last time. And I know I'm going to do the action, might as well do that too. Let action equals to UI alert action. Might as well pick that one too. I want to choose this one. So I'm just going to format them together. That's all I'm doing. Just to save some time. So I don't want to run out of time with you guys today. Okay, so those are the things we did last time. And now let's fill in the blanks. Title is title, obviously. That's what's going to be there. That's why we put title in there. Message is thank you for choosing. Okay, no problem. Thank you for choosing. And then preferred style is alert, not in the other type, which is the action sheet. And then the action, right? We're going to say you're welcome, and the default action in nil. So this is the title. You're welcome. Thank you. You're welcome. Really interesting example. You're welcome. Default. And we're not going to point to anything of a handler. We're just going to say nil. And if you remember what we did last time, we said that we want to take the alerts, add action. We're going to pass in the action. And then we're going to do is present the action, right? Which is the alerts, right? Animated is equal to true. And complete on completion, we're going to do nothing. I'm not wrong. Yay. I remembered. Okay, there we go. So this should do that little alert, that pop-up again we did last time. All right. But we're not done, right? Even though we've adhered to the protocols, our protocols have to be fixed, right? The numbers, the stuff down here, there's still other things we need to do. So what do we need to do? Well, one is, and again, what it says here at the bottom, we have number of components, and we also have a couple of other ones, right? So number of components, notice that they're going to change to 1, right? Because we only do have 1 component. So this one, we're almost right. We change this to 1. And then we have this one, this picker view one. Picker view, UI picker view, this one. And then this says number of rows in component is an integer. We're going to return the character names that count. However many character names are inside of my my array, we're going to have that many rows. So character names count, and count is like size for array a list, or count length for arrays in other languages. Okay, so those are the two we need. This part right here, just to put this down, this makes this, this code, the following code makes this class apply with the protocols. That's what it does. These two things. However, we do have another one. So we have these two, plus we have this one. So these two are the ones for the data source, and this one is for the delegate, right? So that's the one we didn't have there. Let's go in there. Also, delegate won't work. So func, say picker view. And now to choose the right one, notice it says picker view, UI picker view, title 4 row, right? Title 4 row. So that's the one we want, UI. So picker view. And if we say title 4 row, right? That one. Called by the picker view when it needs the title to use for a given row in a given component. Let's see if this is correct. It says picker view, title for row, an int, for components, return character names dot row again. Returning the row and index of the character that we're putting up there. So that's the title for the actual row itself. So what this does here is it actually shows the character names inside of the picker view, right? If we didn't do that, it would show nothing, right? For example, if I showed, instead of this, actually we'll try it out first. We'll see it work properly, then I'll break it for you guys, okay? Are you ready? Let's try it. So it should show our list if everything went well. So we're going to go to single, and there it is. There's our list. You can see it has our list in there. Oops. Right? And if I click on Lando, and it says, you selected Lando Carlissian. Thank you for choosing. Right? And if I do this one, Han Solo, and I choose it, it'll say, thank you for choosing Han Solo. These are great little pickers because you can have think about this for data input for a user. A user, the more freedom you give them to enter data, you had that experience with the calculator, right? The more he can screw stuff up. If it wasn't for the users, right, our apps would be perfect, right? But of course, we need the user, right? So we want to help the user out, and sometimes these picker controls can help us, give the user a range of selections as opposed to anything they want, right? Okay, so this is pretty cool. But let's break this. I want to show you what happens if I don't put this in, right? This little picker down here, this part here, which is the delegate. So these two things are for the data source, and this down here is for the delegate. Okay, the delegate is basically going to print out our names. Well, what if I just return the row instead? So I say, well, return the row. Right? Even though it's a string, I can go row. Now, can I do? I want to convert it to. If I just do this, I want to convert it to a string, right? I want to convert it to a string. I can also just type in the row in there, right? See if that works, right? I want to output the row instead. Let's see what this does. So run it. As long as it doesn't crash, I'm good to go. And I'm going to go to number 1. And now you can see that it's printing out the row number, right? I have 5 items inside my collection, right? And it's printing that out. So this is truly important. If I don't put this in, I get nothing, right? Here's another example for you. If I stop this thing and I just don't do this at all, will this break? I want to break this thing, right? I want to show you what happens if you don't put in the delegate. What happens if there's no delegate, right? What does it give us by default? Does it even run? It's important to understand, right? So that way you're like, well, I don't know why I did this. Look, right? So if you see, I'm getting a bunch of question marks now because I never put the delegate in. The delegate itself gives us the number. There's a bunch of question marks, right? But we're formatting the row. Let's put this back the way it was before it was broken. Okay, so that's this one. Okay, great. So we did this. Guess what? Source control. We're going to commit. And we're going to say we completed single component picker view controller. Okay, good to go. And I'm going to push. One thing I forgot to do is push it to GitHub. There we go. All right, are we good? Are you guys with me on this one? So another picker control that works to give you some kind of data input. Let's do the other two now. With these two, let's go back down to this one over here. Okay. And what I want to do here is somewhat similar, something similar to what I did before. All right. Again, let's just prepare. So I know I need this one, right? This picker view. I want a reference to it just like before. So I'm going to control drag in here. Let's just prepare this way this time around. Let's make it a little different. And we called it single picker view. Let's call this double picker view. Double picker, single picker, double picker, date picker. Yay. Lots of creativity there. Okay, and let's do the same thing with our select button. So we're going to take our select button and we're going to control drag it down here. Let's try that again. Control drag it down here where there's a space. And we'll make this an action and we'll call this on button pressed. And we're going to just move this into a type of UI button and connect. We know that we're going to have to use this as a delegate, both a delegate and a data source again. Okay. So that means that I want to do the same kind of idea here, right? I want to make it so that it's a UI picker data source. I'm going to do a different thing, and UI picker data delegate. Both those two things. I want to adhere to the protocol, so I'm going to click fix. When I do that, unfortunately, it does it on the wrong side, right? I hate when it does this for me. It's my fault, by the way. It's not the machine's fault. Machine's only going to give you what you ask it. That's it. All right, and I know that I want these two things to be below my button. I'm just prepping, right? Because this is the exact same thing we did last time, except, and I'm going to get rid of this part. Oops, I'm going to get rid of, yeah, I won't get rid of that. All right, so I need these two things, and I know I'm going to need another one. So this one is number of components. Hey, guess what? We're going to use two components this time, right? Because it's double. So I'm going to return. And this one here, right now, I'm going to return 0 because we don't know what this is going to return. And we need one more, right? We know that these two are for the data source, right? And we need another one for the delegate. And it's going to be some kind of function that is the picker view function, right? Which we need going to return a string. Okay, and a return we're going to do right now. We're going to return the empty string. Empty. I don't know what we're going to return yet. So we set it up as a delegate. Nice, nice, right? We did all this regular stuff inside here first, right? Remember? And now we have to do the same thing on our controls. So we're going to bring this up again, remember? Let's just bring this over here, right? Click on it. And you can see that we're going to have to make it both a data source and a delegate. just like last time. Sorry? Show what? The code? How's that? Okay, so I just made that for now, and we're going to change it in a second. So the delegate right now, all it does is gives us the title for each of the rows, right? But here's something interesting. We have a row with 2 columns, right? That means we're going to need something else in there to indicate the other, for the other column, right? And this is for which component? Depending on the component that we're going to do it for, we have 2 things, for row and for component. And this just returns nothing, right? Both blank, right? For both. That's what this does. Okay, what if I run it like this? It's empty. I want to run it anyway, right? I want to check it out. I want to break a crash. I want to make it break, right? Like this, right? Because then you'll figure out what it does, right? 2. Oh man, where's my picker, right? Still not enough information is what I'm saying. Still some stuff missing. So again, we did the same thing. We did a UI picker view delegate, UI picker view data source, right? All the regular stuff, except this time in our, we need to add a couple more things. Our filling component is equal to 0. But this is going to have like some kind of, a different kind of stuff. We have some kind of filling types and our bread types. Like for example, ham and a whole wheat, with whole wheat bread, right? This is what we're making, a turkey with on rye, you know, that kind of stuff, right? So let's see this out. So there's 2 parts. So filling component and bread component. Notice that it goes 0 and 1. Component 0 on the left, component 1 on the right. And component 2, if we had another component, would be on the right, further right, right? So we start off our components starting at 0, just like any array, 0-based counting, right? Here, we say private let's, and like it says here, our filling component is equal to 0. Oh, haha, private let, and then our bread type, bread component, that's what it is, bread component, yeah, is equal to 1, right? And then we're going to make 2 arrays, one for filling types and one for bread types. So private let filling types is equal to an array. Private let bread types is also equal to an array. For filling types, let's talk about different kinds of sandwiches, like turkey sandwich. You might have a ham sandwich, right? You might have a steak sandwich. I'm making it up, right? How about a fish sandwich, right? Okay, what other kind of sandwiches can we have? What did they put in there? Tuna salad, chicken salad, roast beef. A Vegemite, a veggie sandwich. There we go. So a few of them. We don't have to make all the ones they did, right? And what kind of bread? We're going to have brown bread on brown, right? White bread, whole wheat, raisin. I don't know. And maybe we don't have to make it even too. We can make more of one than the other, right? What other kind of breads would it be? Like bagel, turkey bagel sandwich, right? I don't know. Right? Sure. So we added some other bread types. So filling types and bread types. Yay. Okay, cool. Now that we got that stuff here's our on button press. So on button pressed, we're going to use the filling row be the selected component and the bread row be the other selected component. So of the filling component and the bread component. By the way, filling component and bread component are just friendly names for 0 and 1. So we know which one it is. That's what we're doing here. So filling row and bread row. All right, and that's inside of our on button pressed event. So let filling row equal to, we called it the double picker dot selected row, and then the component would be the filling component. There we go. And let's, I don't know, we'll call it bread row. I don't know. They call it bread row? Yeah. Bread row is equal to double picker dot selected row, and then bread component. Okay. So when you press it, it takes whatever you selected from both sides, because you're going to have two pickers that come up. Whatever you selected from both sides is going to take that data and store it inside filling row and bread row, whatever's in there. That's the row index. That's the index of the arrays. Okay. So we're going to get a reference. What's it doing now? No, I do not want to update Excel right now. Thank you. Okay, cool. So now that's next one. Now filling in bread. Notice exactly what we did last time. Is it's going to take the filling types for use the rows as indices for filling types and bread types. And again, this is kind of wasteful. You can do it other ways. So let's say filling, right, is equal to the filling types, filling row, right? And bread is equal to bread types, bread row. Again, we're just using the filling row and bread row is the one we've selected, the index of the one we selected. Have some kind of message, which is your filling on bread, your slash filling on slash bread. Bread will be right up. On bagel bread, it's going to say bagel bread for one of them because I put bagel as the bread type. Yay! It's going to make no sense, but it's okay. At least we know what we're doing. All right, and then we're going to make this bloody alert again. Alerts, the alert action, the whole thing again. We're going to have the title, thank you for your order, and the title is great. Okay, so let's just do that stuff again. Actually, you know, we could do, and I want to save some time here, is I'm going to pull up the one we did for the single component picker view. Component picker view. Oh yeah, we just get rid of this. And we're just going to copy these rows here because I'm really lazy. And I'm going to go back to my double component picker view. And right in here, you don't have to see that anyway, it's just paste. And just to kind of go faster is thank you for your order. Here's what's going to go there. And then instead of you're welcome, it's going to be great. Put here with the little PowerPoint we have. Great, right? Did I do it wrong? I did. This is supposed to be the title. And this is supposed to be the message. Okay, so that did this part, right? So that the on button pressed event should be done. Okay, but we're missing the other parts. This part I did correct. Number of rows, number of components, 2, right? But now we're going to do an if statement. If the component is the bread component, so that's component 0, then return the bread types dot count. Else, return the filling types dot count, which, depending on which one I pick. When I pick them, right, what's going to happen is it's going to activate this event handler. That's what it is, right? For which component it is. So that's down here. So let's say if component is equal to the bread component, then do something, else do something else, right? Return the bread types dot count, return bread types count. So the count, how big the size of my bread array, or return the filling types dot count. Filling types. There we go. That returns this correctly. Yet I get number of rows. Now, my delegate also has to change because my delegate's not going to just have one type. Remember I talked about this? It's going to be something more complex. If my component is equal to bread component, return the bread types dot row, else return the filling types dot row. It's kind of the same thing. Could I write this in one blow? Could I write this differently? Right? Could make a switch case. I could return depending on what my component is, right? So let's write it differently just because we want to be different, right? So we're going to return the following. We're going to say return, and depending on what it is, right, my components equal to, and again, like it says here, bread component. If it's equal to bread component, then what I want to return is something else. I want to return my bread types row. Bread types row. Else, let me see if I can bring that up for you a little bit so you guys can see this one. Else, return our filling types row. I do this. What the heck does this mean anyway? So what's this again? Anyone knows what this is called? Someone said it before, huh? Ternary operator. Actually, our friend who normally tells me what it's called in Ukrainian. What's it called in Ukrainian? Probably a ternary operator in Ukrainian too, huh? Right, there we go. Perfect. I love it. It's even sexy compared to the way I say it, right? All right, so, but this ternary operator actually is faster than using if else, always in computer, right? So it's more efficient because computers see it that way, right? It's almost like a branching statement as well, but it also saves us code, right? Instead of me writing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines of code, I can do it in one line, right? So that's kind of a better way of doing it. It's nice and elegant compared to this. If it's only two choices, if else, right? If it's something else other than that, like when you need more than 2 cases, then you can't use this. It's only for 2 cases, if else. We have a lot of if this, then that, right? So if I was going to rewrite this one in the same kind of idea, right, it would be like this: return, right, components is equal to bread components, right? And then my question mark, which is what I'm returning, my bread types dot counts, or my filling types dot counts. This is the same as writing all this. I guess I get rid of it. And this is much cleaner. Okay, this is good, but we haven't tested any of this to see if any of it works. Let's see what happens. This is our third case. So first case was a very simple one, date picker, which gave us the wrong date, right? We got the second one, right? which gives us Han Solo and Luke Skywalker, right? And then the third one, which is like turkey on brown. So if I select that one, it should say on bread will be right up, right? Turkey on brown, right? Or if I say ham on bagel bread, let's see if that works. Your ham on bagel bread will be right up, bagel bread. It's totally wrong. But, you know, it works, right? So we have two controls now, right? Independent of each other, right? One and the other one. And you can have as many of these as you want. If you have more than one component, you can keep going. How many components do you want as long as it fits in here? You probably can fit, with words like this, you can probably fit on a regular screen, maybe 3 max, right, with words, okay? Beyond that, it'd be unreadable. You would see like ... okay? And you wouldn't want to do that. 2 or 3 maximum. Okay, if it's numbers, like we saw on the date component, totally doable. We can do more numbers because they're smaller, right? It'll fit across a little bit better than this. All right, well, yes. Right?
Yeah, I have some problems with this double picker.
Double picker because I dragged and dropped an outlet, right, from my picker control, and I created a reference, and I called it double picker. Okay, that's what I did. Okay, so from my user interface, my picker control, I control dragged in here to make an outlet, right? And that's how I got the reference. Okay, let me clean this up a little bit, and then this is a great place for me to do some source control. So again, I'm going to go commit and push. So I'll say I completed the double component picker view controller. Oh, massive. And I'll push to the remote too. So I'll commit and push. Yay. Good. Excellent. Now, if you want to check my solution, go up online and you can grab it. Okay, so this is okay. We did this one. Let's take a look at the next one. So it's very similar. We're repeating, but you know what? This is really good because it gives you a chance to see it again and again. Now we know what we need to do, right? We know we need to make this a delegate and a data source, right? So UI, right? Picker view data source. Picker view delegate, this one. We need to do those two things right away. And would be confirmed to conform to the data source and the delegate, we need to add those extra fixes, which is right here, which we're going to take this stuff and we're going to put it underneath here. This is before we do any kind of anything else. Now, number of components, we're going to probably have 2 again, right? I don't know the number of rows yet, right? I don't know the number of rows. Actually, yeah, maybe the number of rows are going to be some number. So for now, we'll return 0, just to adhere to this. And I know, and this is for the, just to go on, this is the data source, right? So this is basically telling us how big the data source is, right? And we know we're going to have some kind of delegate. This is the last thing we're going to do, guys, and then I'll let you guys go. This can take a little longer because our data source is a plist file, which is something different, right? And we're going to go here and say picker view, title for row, and we're just going to return this, just to make it so that it adheres to all the things we've talked about before, right? These are the things that we need to put in place. Okay, cool. So we did this stuff. We've seen our UI picker view data source and our view delegate, but we need a reference to our picker, and we need a button action. We need those 2 things. So now let's go back. We'll save this file. We'll go back to the main storyboard, and we'll screw it across to this one, right? Which looks very similar to this one. And we got some issues. One, we need to make it both the data source and the delegate, right? We need to do those things. Now, hear me out here. We may have to change the data source. This is different than before, right? So data source is a plist file. Okay, let's see what happens there. That's going to be different. And then the next one is we're going to bring up our little, we're going to bring up our file here, right, in the assistant editor, and we're going to control drag from this one over here. And we're going to call this probably dependent picker, I bet you. Right? Let's see what it actually says inside of our controls, just in case. Oh, yeah. This is where it becomes really whack, right? Remember this one. So the dependent picker, we're going to use 2 arrays in a dictionary, right? So the kind of the data source is going to kind of look like this, where we have name of the states and then their postal codes or zip codes, if you will. So one is dependent on the other one. Okay, what do we call this thing? Picker view delegate and the picker view data source. Did they actually get them this time around? Maybe not. Maybe not. That's why I was looking here. I was like, I didn't remember that we did that. And there's this part. That looks almost the same. Sorry, I just want to make sure that we're good. Yeah, there's something missing, guys, for sure. Components too. I did that right. And the last part is this part. Selected row, dependent picker. Yeah, so I just didn't put it in there. It just didn't show it, but it's called dependent picker. Woohoo! Okay, I was right. Dependent picker. There it is, right? And then we need a button, which we're going to put before the data sources and after view did load, right? So we're going to get the button, and we're just going to drag this in. And we're going to put this on button pressed, same as before. Make it an action. Change it to a type of button. Click connect. There we go. Now we don't need this view anymore. We've got everything we need. So we're going to get rid of this. We're going to go back to this. We're going to look at our dependent thing, and we're going to get rid of this. Just give you guys all kinds of room for this one. All right. Let's go back up here. So the first part is having some data, right? We have our state. In the states, we have states and zip codes instead of postal codes, right? And we need to make some arrays, but this time we're not going to put the data in. We're going to read the data from our plist file, which is a new thing, okay? So again, up here, underneath our picker, we're going to say let, again, this is state component and zip component. So state component is equal to 0. Let our zip component is equal to 1. Those are the 2 things we did last time. And then state zips, states, and zips. This is interesting. So let state zips. State zips. This is kind of a, now what would you think this is? Right? Looks like this is a string array. What about this? An array of, right? Array of, or a string array of strings, right? So instead of doing it this way, we're going to do, well, this is of type array string, right? And we're going to say that there's another string inside of that. And we're going to make it an exclamation mark because we're going to, it hasn't been initialized. These are states, which is of type string. And zips, which is also of type string. I'm not wrong. So state zips, states and zips. That sets up our containers for the data. So state zips, states, and zips are going to hold our data that we're going to find, we're going to read in from our plist file. Yes, because we can't make them vars because last time when we made lets, they were constant, but this way we're actually creating the data, we're reading the data in, so they can't be lets, they have to be vars. Otherwise it'd be immutable, right? It wouldn't be able to be changed. State zips, did I make it wrong? Did I make a mistake?
No.
Yeah, so it's like it's almost like a an array that is multi-level. I have an array within an array. So a string array of arrays, string array of strings, right? And the reason for this is you probably need to have a, it's almost like you have a, it's almost like a jagged array in C#, right? Trying to think of the analog. Okay, let's go back. So that's the first thing. And it says, well, before we write code, we need some kind of data. And up until now, we've created arrays in code, but this is too big. And there's two objects, both NS array and NS dictionary objects created for property lists. And the data is in this plist file. So drag the file into your Xcode project. That's what it says. So let's do that. So I gave you the file, right? And I'm going to just give my Xcode project a little bit of room. And I'm going to take my file, which is plist, this one, state dictionary plist. If I drag it into my project, it says copy items if needed, create groups, create folder references, right? And just click finish. I'm just going to leave it as is. All right, now if I actually look at the data, I should be able to see all the data. Here's all the data, right? So I've got my root, Alabama, which is an array. And inside Alabama, you can see that there are a bunch of different zip codes. So that's why it's an array of arrays, right? An array of strings. Here's an array of strings, Alabama, Alaska. And inside this, the array itself of strings, it's a dictionary that has other strings inside of it. Key value pairs, right? So where Alabama item 0 would be the key, right? And the value would be 35004 for this one, for item 0. And item 1 would be the key, and the value pair would be 35005. So Alabama would be the name of the dictionary. Okay? And that's what this is. That's what that code that we were looking at is. When I go back to dependents, this one. And if I actually hover over this thing to find out what it is, I want to see the type, right? If I want to look at this thing, like what is the type of, and of course it wouldn't give it to me. But if I look at what this is, this array of strings is really what it is a dictionary type. So an array of arrays means an array of a string array of strings is like a dictionary with key value pairs. Okay, cool. So we've got that part, but we haven't connected it somehow. So drag it in. And this is if you single click it, which we did, we can see the data. But now we have to access this stuff, right? We have to access this stuff. And just to make it bigger, I'm just going to kill my PowerPoint for 1 second and make this really big so we can all see it, right? So we're going to say that our state row and our zip row, we've done all this before, right? State row and zip row is the selected rows because we're getting from our picker, whatever the picker is. So state row and zip row. Let's do that next. And that's in our button. So we'll say let state row is equal to our picker, which is the dependent picker, dependent picker selected row, right? And the component would be in component, which would be the state component, right? Likewise, our zip row is equal to the dependent picker dot selected row, and then in component zip components. That's that part. So we're getting our reference for each of the rows. And then, like it says here, our state and zip. So let state is equal to states, state row. And let zip is equal to zips, zip row. That gives us this part. Okay. Title, message, and all this crap. Again, I'm not gonna type it in. I'm gonna copy paste because that's just, we want to save some time. So I'm gonna go back to double component and all this. I'm just gonna grab all this and modify it. Right, just from the previous one, right? Because we're doing the same thing over and over again, right? I don't want to kill you guys with boredom, right? So instead of my title, you selected zip code from zip, so we'll put that in there. So we have a title now. Title. You selected zip code from zip. Yeah, zip code. Zip code from zip. Right? And that message zip is in whatever state it is, right? So we'll say zip state is in, well, that takes care of that. And then our title is title, our message is message. And then for our action, it's okay. We have here, everything else is the same. So, I mean, again, you've seen like alerts. We've seen all the same stuff. We're just checking to see if we get the data now, right? Now remember, the button doesn't get the data, the button selects the data, right? And then it does something when we get it back, right? When we get the data from that we have to fill in these arrays. Right now the arrays are empty, right? So how do we get the data? Well, here, our data sources do that. And let me just undo this change here, just to make sure that it fits back in there. And let's go to this one. So inner view did load, we got some stuff to do. And this is neat, this is different, right? We're gonna say our bundle, this is neat, is bundle.main. And then our plist URL, this is interesting, is our bundle.url for resource, state dictionary, which is what it's called, with extension plist. Okay, so that is a reference to the plist file. So let bundle.main, that's inside our view did load. Let bundle be equal to bundle.main. Main bundle, that's the project basically is what it's looking at, right? The next part is plist URL. We just made that up. URL is equal to the bundle, right? And then .url for resource, URL for resource. Now, this is different. Take a look, right? Because what it shows in the book is this, but the new one is something totally different. Just FYI. URL, and it says for resource. Look, take a look at these ones, right? So for resource, we have to pick the right one because it's for resource and then some kind of string and it with extension. So for resource with extension. Let's see if there's anything like that. For resource with extension. There we go. And that's the new code. I told you there's always differences between the book and the book was written just when this was going, and this might be Swift 3 point something. So for resource, what is it called? What's the resource? And we called it state dictionary. So state dictionary with extension plist, also a string, plist. And just to make that more visible, I'm going to put it on 2 lines. So this is a reference to the file that we put in here, statedictionary.plist. That's what it is. It's inside of my project. Cool. Next, we're filling in some stuff. State zips is we're going to use the NS dictionary to initialize, right, the contents of my plist URL, this thing, as some kind of dictionary. We're making a reference to it. So we're reading everything from the dictionary right here, right? That's the first part. So this is where we're actually reading in the data. So we'll say state zips is equal to, and again, NS dictionary. Again, when you see NS dictionary, ladies and gentlemen, it means we're using Objective-C, the bridge to Objective-C. We're initializing, and like it says here, we are passing in the contents of okay, we're having an issue. What's the issue? Go back. NS dictionary dot, and I want to do an it. Contents of URL, right? I didn't pick the right one. Contents of plist URL. Plist URL, right? And I'm going to cast it, right, as a type of dictionary again. So we're going to say it's going to be string, which has a string kind of reference. And I think I got it. That's enough. Let's get rid of this. So basically I'm saying, hey, read the plist file and you know it's a dictionary, but make sure that statezips knows that it's the same type. Because that's what we defined it down here. We defined statezips up here as this type, and we're reading in the plist file into the statezips dictionary. That's what this is. Okay, cool. The next part is let all states, a new thing, be the statezip keys. So let all states, with a capital S, yes, be equal to the statezips dot keys. Remember, in a dictionary we have key value pairs. It's like a map in some other languages, right? And now we need the values, right? And then states are the all states dot sorted. States is equal to all states sorted. Means take the values in sorted order and dump them into the states array. That's what's happening here. And then, of course, we need zips. Right? We need zips as well. So zips is the selected state. We don't have that yet. So let selected states, right, is equal to states 0. And zips is the selected state. Selected state. State zips, I'll be okay. State zips. I was like, wait a minute, that's wrong. I must have typed that wrong. State zips, that's right. So it's going to state, and then we're using the key is going to be the selected states as an index. All we're doing is getting the keys and the values, and we're getting the data out of the dictionary. That's all we're doing here. So this right here is create a reference to the dictionary inside the plist file. So this is doing. And this part, read in the dictionary data from the plist file. Right, using this nsdictionary.init, and we're using the plist URL, and we're reading the contents of this thing and reading it into the state zips container. Again, nothing that crazy to understand. It's just syntax. When you're looking at it, you're like, I've never seen that syntax before. That's Swift. That looks different than I'm used to. And I've already made some changes from even the PowerPoint, because the PowerPoint was old, right? Even though it was December 2016, and it was when Swift 3 came out. Okay, cool. So that's okay. That's working okay. So what's left? Well, we got to do this part, the bottom of our file, which is this is okay, and this looks very similar to what we did last time, right? If component is equal to state component, then return states.count. Otherwise, return zips.count. I'm not going to write it like that. You know how I want to write it, right? I want to say that if my component is equal to state component, right? Then I want to return the states.count. Otherwise, return the zips.count. That's happening. Similarly, this isn't any different, right? But we're missing one more. Look, we have this one, and we have one more we haven't seen before, right? This is new, this part here, because we're doing something totally different than before, right? One is dependent upon the other. This is actually the dependent portion that we haven't dealt with before. Still part of our delegate, but a different delegate method that we haven't seen before, right? So this part's the same: state component, states row, and zips row, right? So this is component, is equal to states component, then return states row, otherwise return zips row. That part's all good. Now we need one more method, because we have to deal with this dependency issue. One thing dependent on the other, right? And we're going to make a new one called picker view did select row. Okay, it's almost like another event. Did select row in component. Okay, so let's see if we can find that. So func picker view. We're going to look for that. Did select row in component. There it is. There's our code. And what this one does is it kind of says this: if my component, and this is where I cannot use my little funky ternary operator. If my component is state component, then let my selected state be states row, and so on. I got to put all that in there. Otherwise, do nothing. That's what this is going to say, right? So if component is equal to states component, and what do we want to do? I'll put some more room in here so you guys can see it. I'll push it up. So I'm going to say let selected state, whatever the selected state, is equal to the states row. Whatever row I selected, just like I did up here, right? Now that I have the selected state, zips, remember I need to reference one from the other. One is dependent on the other. So I'm going to change whatever I'm seeing on the zip side to depending on what I've selected on the states. I can only show the zips that are relevant to the states, not the other zip codes. So zips, as an example, is equal to the state zips, and then selected state. That's what this is going to do. Right? And then the dependent picker reload component, zip component, dependent picker. Let's talk about that a little bit. Reload components. Okay. Component. And dependent picker, select row. Dependent picker, select row. This is different than we did last time. The row index is 0, and in component, zip component. But basically what it's doing is it's setting the first component to the first zip code inside of that state. That's what's happening, right? And animated true. Reload component. There we go. Reload component. And that's zip component. Reload component. Come on. Reload components. Yeah, okay, I was right. So just kill it. Here we go. Okay, let's go over this a little bit. So how the heck does this work, right? And why is it working this way in the first place? Well, so number of components tells the picker view how many columns we have, right? So we need 2, right? We need states and zip, right? Just like we did last time, depending on which one is selected, it's going to return the count of the one that's selected, an index. That's all we're doing. We're returning the index of the one that's selected. And depending on which one is selected, we're going to show a different item inside the row. That's what this one is doing here. Now, this one is new because what we want to do is we say, look, you know what? I don't want to show every single zip code. I only want to show the zip codes related to the state. For example, in New York, there's only certain zip codes. I only want to show those ones, right? Not the other ones. And so what I'm doing is I'm making a reference. It's a lookup table, right? I'm saying, hey, whatever my selected state is equal to the states row, whatever I selected my states. Great. And then once I have that index, that's the selected state, 0, 1, 2, whatever, how many states it is, right? I'm going to plug that into my state zips. That's the key value pair again. State zips was the value of the state, right? Reload component, basically what it does is it changes the titles of all the items inside the second component on the right side to match the state on the left side. So, for example, in the beginning, it's showing whatever random state it is with all its zip codes. But if I choose something else, it has to reload what's inside this side to the new stuff. It has to reload from the plist file, right? Well, not from the plist file, but from the array, right? Or the dictionary. And then what we're doing is we're saying, select the first one, the selected row of this one has to be inside of my component, my zip component on the right-hand side. Make it the 0th element. So select the first one automatically by default. Because if I don't do that, there's nothing selected on the right-hand side because we move one, the other one doesn't get selected. All right, whew, let's see if this works. You can see that this is getting more and more complicated. All right, so we're going to go to dependent. And yeah. So where's our error? Let's see where if I made a thing. So it says fatal error, unexpectedly found nil while unwrapping an optional value. Right? So now it targeted something, right? It actually put me on a specific line. It says, now, and this is why you have to look at these errors. I know it's kind of like funky, and you probably were having the same kind of problems when you looked at some of the other things that you were seeing. But let's take a look at some of these problems. So there's no breakpoints. By the way, we can look at all the breakpoints and errors at build time and at runtime. This is a runtime error, right, that we're getting. Okay, so this is where it has to be. So this is the actual area, and it's highlighting a line right here. This is the area that I'm getting a problem, right? Huh? Say that again. It's giving a nil, right? All right. So why is that? Well, I put state dictionary with extension plist. Okay. So that's the first thing, right? So it's trying to read the state dictionary and it's doing it on load. So as soon as it happened before I did anything else, before anything loaded up, this thing triggered and it's trying to read my dictionary, right? Contents of the plist file. Let's take a look and see if I've typed something wrong. That's the first thing I check whenever I, type code from somewhere else, right? So let bundle main, plist URLs, bundle.url for resource. Remember we had that problem, right? URL, and then for resource, and then state dictionary with extension plist, right?
There's an extra matrix card and URL for this. Yeah.
Yeah, you need that to be all together because this is wrong. You don't have this anymore. Bundle URL, if I type that in again, look, if I go bundle.url, right, and I go for resource, notice that it doesn't come up. It comes up with a new form this way, right? So that's why it wrote it in like that. With extension is what I used, right? This is what I did with extension, right? And it gave me this code here. All I did was type in plist on this side and state dictionary on this side. So that's not it. Well, maybe it is, right? Maybe it doesn't detect the file, right? And then we have state zips. This is the part where it's having its issue. nsdictionary.init, contents of plist file, plist URL. Well, that's different. Oh, no, it's not. As I typed that correctly, string. This is lovely Swift for you, right? So I see the same. I don't see a problem. So it's either having problems reading from the plist. Could have problems reading from the plist file, right? But that's what I see. So just curious. I want to see what it looks like on in my folder, right? Even though this plist file is right here, state dictionary plist. I'm just curious. I want to see where this is, what it looks like physically on the system. Just see what it looks like. Okay, so this is it. Yeah, it's physically here. This is where this is. So I want to make sure it's on the same folder that I'm accessing. So that doesn't have to be a folder. We're good to go. Did I save everything? I did. All right, so something's changed. Something has changed since this thing came out, this code, right? So we got to figure it out. Guys, I have 30 of you in the class. Go. It's going to be way faster than me trying to do it on my own. So I want to see how to load a plist file, data from a plist file. Go. Take a look at that, right? The other thing is that, we want to, to do that. Signing is not the issue. Sometimes also it is our capabilities. Like maybe we're blocking. No. Sometimes you have to put something in here as well, like some kind of a resource or whatever that you want to put in here to tag the resource. But I don't think so. I don't think this is necessary. I think it's something else. Well, we know we can build. Building is not a problem, right? It's not a build issue, it's a runtime issue. Like if I run this again, let's see if I can get the same problem. I should get the same problem. If I go here, no problem. If I go here, no problem. If I go here, no problem. But if I go here, problem, right? So peerless URL is equal to nil is what I'm getting. Unable to read data. This is the selected state. Unable to read data. States 0. Hold on a second. Selected states. Yes. Yes. Did you? You did it and it works?
No, I was following like the PDF that came right here, and then I followed it and worked.
Let's see. No, that's not it. Again, you're using version 8?
Yeah.
And I'm using version 9, and there's some problem. Sorry? Oh, yes, I actually do. Let me commit it. So I'll say commit. We'll say we completed dependent dependent components picker view controller with errors. And it's up on GitHub now, so you should have that. So it's definitely not reading because it says that. It says my plist URL is empty, right? I'm having a problem reading my selected states, right? State zip keys, state zips keys, all states sorted, selected states, state 0, zip states. Yeah, looks all the same to me. So what could it be? And just to make sure that we're good, URL for resource. I'll put this all on one line. Sometimes there's weird effects like that. It's not that. That's good. At least I'm discounting those things, and it shouldn't have been. All right, so it's still the problem. It says string unable to read data from selected state. What was that? On yours? Okay, what's your GitHub? Hold on. TIM? TIMBO? Like that? Nice. I like your GitHub. Okay, let's take a look. Let's see what our friend here did compared to what I did. Maybe there's something that I missed. On domain, bubble resource, zip key selected states, string 01. Sorry guys, moving back and forth a little bit quickly here. State zip states and zips, string, and independent picker, and then from there you use your state dictionary. State dictionary. Same code. It's exactly the same code. At least this part. Did receive memory warning. I took it out. You didn't. Did the same thing here. My handler was exactly the same. This is just a thing to components. We just changed this to zip and row. And let's take a look at this part. State components equals state components. Selected state equals states row. Zips, state, zips, selected states. This shouldn't matter though. Reload zip components. Independent row. Dot selected row 0. In components. Animate is true. And you did your, what's this? Oh, that's later on. That's to make it work, right? You went ahead. But that shouldn't stop us from running it, right? This shouldn't. So everything's exactly the same. So reading, here he goes. You guys didn't help me, right? So reading data fromplists, Swift 4. Let's see what if we get some help from our friendly friends online. Our friends online. La la la, ba ba ba. How did it do it? This is not going to give me the answer. I have a feeling. Not at all. Not what I'm looking for. Aligning with keys. Make your stuff available. Semi types. No. Sure, we'll use Swift 3. If let path bundle main.path resource file name of type lists. If let path. Otherwise, what if it's not? Same way you had done in Swift 2.3 or lower, just syntax has changed. Bundle main.path for resource. How old is that? So I got to look at the dates. December 26th. No, this is the same time frame. Bundle main URL for resource with extension. Exactly what we did. Let data is equal to try. We did a try catch. That's all the things. Data and then contents of file URL. Right? Data contents of. So, but that shouldn't stop me from doing stuff like this. It shouldn't crash my stuff, right? Bundle URL,plists. Here we're making our dictionary. State steps. So if I said try, I wonder if that would be different. That should just stop me from having the error, not. Still cause the problem. Yes. Found nil while unwrapping an optional value. Okay, sorry, where? Of type instead of with extension? So, okay. Of type. Nope. Let's try that. Let's just type it in again. So I'll undo that. And then I'll just do one of these. We'll try it again. giving me any kind of code hinting at all. Is that because I'm still running? Maybe that's what it is. So bundle.url. These are the options that I got. You might have something different. So with extension, path. You want path instead? So let's try that. Path or resource of type, like this. All right, let's try that. Maybe this is something different for mine compared to yours, but that still seems rather odd. That should not be the same problem. But anyways, hey man, if it works, I'm good. Okay, let's try this. So this is the original one. Let's see if this fixed the problem. Cannot convert value of type string to expected argument type URL. This is the path to the URL, right? This is not the URL, this is the path. So plist URL path, right? It's not the URL because the URL is the actual content. So how do I read it? So I'd have to do something different on this line too then. Those two lines would be the two lines that are different. Because this line would be not a path anymore. Plist URL, if I hover over it. And by the way, we're not even using breakpoints. One thing we could do is use breakpoints. So when we come to that line, we can read the data as it's looking at it, but it's telling us that it can't read the data, can't access the file for me personally. So back to the drawing board for me, I'll let you keep doing what you're doing and see if you can find something. It's file URL is equal to bundle main.url for resource file name with extension. And then data bundle.main.url. Bundle.main, same thing. All right, it's just all in one line. They just did this all in one line here. I did it in 2 lines. This isn't right. Contents of file URL. Try reading the data of the contents. nsdictionary.init. Maybe it's something to do with this line here, this nsdictionary one. So let me undo this one. This one back. And I want to do this one again. So maybe my nsdictionary is different from me. So state zips. Dictionary, nsdictionary. Contents of file. And its contents of file. Whatever the string is. Okay. How about we do this? How about we change this to contents of file instead of contents of? Sorry? You put something on Slack? Resource file dictionary is nsdictionary. Okay. Then resource file dictionary. So that wouldn't be resource file dictionary. It would be whatever it is. All right, let's try that out. I don't mind. So let's just comment this out, and we'll comment this out. And we'll put this back over here. And if let path bundle main.path info is not info, it's states dictionary of type plist. Resource file dictionary is not resource file dictionary. It is state zips. And its content of file. Right? Scan and assign value of type NS dictionary to type string string. Insert as string. Oh yeah. Okay, let's do that. Fix it. even your stuff has to be fixed. How about that, right? Well, you know the one I'll tell you guys. Even if you finish this, I'll tell you this now. All right. When I first did this Swift stuff, I'll tell you right now, we had no fixes. It just broke. It wouldn't tell you what the fix is. Now, over the last little while, they've been giving us fixes, which is a good thing. Let's see if that works. I'm just building, not even like trying to run yet. Just can I get by the build? So the build path looks good. Let's see if you're right. Right. So if let path is equal to this, then do this is what I'm saying. State zips. I'm just reading state zips a different way. Right. So instead of it doing this in the bundle, actually, I don't even need this bundle main anymore. Right. Because we're not even looking at bundle main. So we're just doing it a different way. Let's see if yours works and mine doesn't. I hope yours works. If yours works, I'm happy. We'll figure out why later. But no. Just for me, for whatever reason, it doesn't like trying to open up that file, you know, this that we're looking at, right? And just to print it off.
Tom, I also sent you a code.
Okay, I'll try that too.
It builds, but it doesn't show anything.
What do you mean? Oh, this stuff. Okay.
Kind of messy.
Vars, dictionary, let path, bundle, path. Oh, this, so you actually did all this. Okay. So what did you change?
Basically, it's using the path as a
If dict, where did you put that? If let dict is equal to state zips. So all this stuff here. Okay, I don't mind. I'll just, you know, what I will do is I'll grab this and I will comment out everything else. So, and we'll try this. I like your thinking. I see what you did. Okay, there's that stuff, right? And there's a build. No. You just have some trouble reading that file. No matter what I do, that file has trouble reading, right? It's the same. So it's something else. I will take a look at it again, just like I did with the other thing, and then come back to you. But it's definitely something with Xcode 9 and Swift 4 that's different than Swift 3 because we have people running that we don't have problems with you guys running it. I have a problem running it, right? And that's a good problem to have. If you guys are all working, but mine's not, then I can figure mine out, right? But I need more time. So guys, thank you so much. That's 3 examples of how we're using pickers, right? 2 of them failed. 1 of them was okay. But at least, well, one of them half failed. It kind of got the date, but it's the wrong date, right? Second one worked. The third one kind of worked, but didn't really print out anything, right? When we come back next week, right? Let's be positive, right? Then we will deal with something more challenging, which is where we have a table view that we're reading in, and it's going to be more of a complicated app. Okay, thank you so much for sticking around and trying to figure this out with me, and we'll see you when we get back.